أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome. Today, we're going to delve into one of the most profound stories in the Quran, the story of Iblīs. We'll be exploring material compiled by Mir Ali Shah, and we're going to look at this story in a way that, well, you might not have before. So let's just dive right in. The material we're looking at makes this really powerful claim. This isn't some fairy tale about a distant, horned devil. No! The Quran presents this cosmic drama as a deep psychological map of the human soul. It's like a surgical dissection of pride itself. You know, the story doesn't start with a whisper. It starts with a cosmic bang. The Quran calls it a naba'un azim, a tremendous, great announcement. It's an announcement so important that it defines our very existence. And yet, as the verse this is based on points out, it's the one we so often turn away from. So what is this great announcement all about? Well, the classical commentators explain that it covers all of this. It's the moment that humanity's true rank is unveiled, the secret of the divine spirit breathed into us is revealed, and the moment this incredible status was disputed, which showed the true face of arrogance for the very first time. And this brings us to the main event, you could say. The stage is set in the exalted assembly of the angels. God has just fashioned Adam, and then a command is given, a single command that would send ripples through all of creation. Just look at the way this is phrased. The angels, all of them, together, immediately obeyed. Zero hesitation. But then you have that crucial, world-changing exception. Except Iblīs. His refusal wasn't a mistake. It wasn't ignorance. The commentators are all clear on this. He heard the command, knew who it came from, saw everyone else obey, and still, he chose defiance. And this just hits the nail on the head. The very first act of disobedience, it wasn't theft or murder or anything like that. The first crack in the harmony of creation was arrogance. It was that simple, but devastating, declaration of superiority. I am better. So this begs the question, right? Why? What was his logic? Why did he refuse? The Quran actually takes us inside his mind, and what it reveals is a really profound kind of spiritual blindness. This slide just lays it out so clearly. Iblīs's whole argument was, you created me from fire and him from clay. He could only see Adam's outer shell, the physical stuff he was made of. But the command was never about bowing to clay. It was about honoring the divine breath, the spirit of God that was breathed into that clay. He saw the created form, but he totally missed the creator's secret hidden inside it. Okay, now here's where things get really fascinating on a more metaphysical level. In the ancient system of Abjad numerology, every Arabic letter has a number value. Well, the name Iblīs adds up to 103, and when you reduce that number down, 1 plus 0 plus 3, it equals 4. So why does the number 4 matter? Well, in this kind of sacred geometry, 4 represents the material world. It's the square, its structure, its rigidity, its limitation. It perfectly symbolizes the choice Iblīs made, to cling to the fixed, rigid form of fire and clay, instead of yielding to the fluid, limitless reality of the spirit. He basically trapped himself in a box of his own making. At this point, it's really easy to think, okay, cool cosmic drama, but what on earth does any of this have to do with me here today? The Quran's answer, which has been echoed by spiritual masters for centuries, is emphatic. This isn't just a history lesson about someone else's mistake. This is a living, breathing mirror held right up to the deepest part of our own hearts. The Sufis teach that this whole story is actually a map of an archetype that exists inside our own minds. It's that part of us that whispers, I know better, or why should I have to apologize, or why them and not me? It's the voice of our own refusal to bow. So how does this refusal to bow actually show up in our day-to-day lives? It's not always some grand, dramatic rebellion. We refuse to bow every time we fight against our reality, when we can't accept what is. We refuse to bow when our pride stops us from taking criticism or just admitting we were wrong. It's in how hard it is to say I'm sorry, it's in blaming others, and it's in avoiding any situation that asks us to be humble. And what's absolutely remarkable is how this 1,400-year-old spiritual diagnosis lines up so perfectly with the findings of modern psychology. The archetype of Iblīs is, from a psychological standpoint, incredibly precise. I mean, science has names for all of these patterns. The moral superiority bias, that's just a clinical term for I am better. The psychology of a fixed identity, That describes Iblīs to a T, this inability to adapt or surrender. Neuroscience even shows that our ego literally experiences surrender as a threat, like a kind of death. And dehumanization, seeing others as just clay, that's at the root of so much conflict. The parallels are just striking.
So, all of this begs the question, where do we go from here? Recognizing the pattern in ourselves is the huge first step. The next step is the gentle work of transformation.
And this is really just an invitation for a moment of quiet reflection. No judgment, just gentle curiosity. Ask yourself, where does this resistance live inside my heart? When do I feel that flash of envy or superiority when I see someone else shine? When do I find it so hard to just bow to a reality that I don't particularly like? Because this is really the ultimate takeaway. That first fire wasn't in some distant hell. It was lit inside a heart that refused to bow. That fire of arrogance, of resentment, of entitlement, it just burns away our inner peace. But humility, the willingness to bow, to surrender, to see the divine breath in others, that is the water that allows an inner garden to finally grow.
And so we'll close with this prayer, this intimate conversation with the divine, adapted from the material by Mir Ali Shah. It's a plea to transform the very root of the spiritual disease. May it be a sincere prayer for all of us. Amin.